Welcome to the left wing extremism or Naxalism topic, which comes under the part 4 of development and spread of extremism. I have already made separate video lectures for political spectrum, Naxalism and Maoism and all those introductory part. Now this is a small topic, not a big one, but this is a part where I have made a separate section for explaining the left wing extremism, and sometimes the term interchangeably used for these extremism as Naxalism too. Moving ahead, so what is Naxalism? Explained earlier, just I will give an introduction. A brief introduction is that Naxalite terms came from a village called Naxalbari, where a peasant uprising happened in 1967, and it happened in West Bengal. This village was belonged to the West Bengal near to the Darjeeling region. Okay, so Naxalism and left wing extremism are used interchangeably, and it has been witnessed in central, eastern and southern part of India. That Naxalism in Telangana region, that is now it is separated from Andhra Pradesh. Earlier it was in Andhra Pradesh, then in Assam, Mizoram, even in Bihar, Jharkhand, you will see these type of insurgent groups. So as I've said, so on March 2, 1967, Naxalites, as they are generally known in India, which were the members of the Communist Party of India, Marxist, and led a tribal peasant uprising in Naxalbari village, Siliguri subdivisions, Darjeeling district. And after this revolt only, there was an emergence of Maoist in India. So Maoist is something where they are completely dependent upon the arms raised against the government. Okay, but in the Naxalite, it is not necessary that everyone will raise arms. Sometimes Naxalites will be called as your mass movement. They are dependent upon the mass movement, and if they are raising arms, then they will be called as Maoist. Okay, so that's why there is a term that all Maoists are Naxalites, but all Naxalites are not Maoist. Already explained in the previous lecture. Again I will explain that. Let us suppose this is a Maoist as a Venn diagram, then this is your Naxalite. Okay, so the unshaded area is those people who have not raised arms against the government, but this shaded area of those people who have raised arms against the government. So if they are raising arms against the government, then they will be called as Maoist. If they are not raising arms against the government, then they will not be considered under Maoist. They will be normal Naxalite. So these Maoists are also known as Naxalite. I hope you understand it. So moving ahead, the causes of a spread in India left-wing extremism. What are the causes behind this emergence of left-wing extremism? So first of the causes was that poor implementation of the independence in India, and it is not, we can say that, completely a fault of our government, because no any country in the world is so much diverse that India has. And another thing that India had to face, that India got independence suddenly. Okay, and within one night it has to do everything, and India got divided into two parts, India and Pakistan and all. So it was very fast movement. If you see in the western countries, they were very slow. No such fast movement happened in those regions, and plus they have not so much diversity as the India have. India has too much diversity. Even within the country you can see different kind of foods. In south the people will like rice, in the north people will like chapati, in the northwest people like bajra, in the east also people will like rice product and all. Okay, so as a separate climate, these all depends upon the climate. We have discussed these on the geography lecture. So just an introduction part, that because of that diversity also we failed in implementation of independence in a good way. And another reason that we can say, that ignorance of the government also. Okay, so government ignorance was also one of the factor. So the factor was something like that, government made attention in the development of the region by the exploitation of the forest, and in that forest too many tribal people were living and the village people. So actually whatever the communities are living in the forest, like tribals, their religions, their ethnicity, their religious purpose and celebration are all completely dependent upon what, that is nature. And if you are destroying that nature, then they have to migrate it. So these are the some kind of regions where the development was happening in their place, where they have to be displaced, and ultimately that kind of development was benefiting to whom? That kind of development was benefiting to the rich people, not to them. So that's why these kind of issues made raise arms against the government, because government also did not listen to them. And this kind of issues left the rise of the left wing extremism or Naxalites in India. So first issue was, as I've explained, that is land related issue. Land acquisition by the government. Still land acquisition is a very crucial part in India, very tough job to any in a development sector. That if you want any development, you want land, and it is a very important part, land acquisition. Okay, so actually what happened, if you are acquiring land on the cost of what? On the cost of forest, and in this you are displacing whom? You are displacing tribals. So that kind of regions will be an issue, and they will may raise arms against the government. They may want independent state, and this what happened in the eastern region of our country, in the Assam and all. We will see in the separate lecture. Okay, so evasion of land, ceiling laws, like that poor implementation of the ceiling laws was that equal distribution of the land in the urban center. Then existence of a special land tenures enjoying exception, like Jamindari, Mahalwadi and Rayatwadi systems were there. They were enjoying a special land tenures. These three terms we will discuss in the modern history lecture. Okay, then but just take it that Jamindars, Mahalwadi and Rayatwadi, these are not different terms. These are similarly like Jamindars, those have a control over Jamins, and they will take some tax and all with the workers who are working in those lands, and they have a lot of huge land. They were able to collection of tax and all. Okay, just take it, does not consider that Jamindari, Mahalwadi are different terms. Those are almost equal terms, but they are related to some, like Jamindaris. These all were implemented by Britishers only, as per their concern, that in the where they will tax will be collected by the farmers directly. In Jamindar system, the tax were collected by the Jamindars, not by the farmers directly. So these were kind of situations in those three terms. Okay, another, encroachment and occupation of the government and community lands. So even the water bodies were like government were extending their rights and raised to what? Over exploitation of the region. They are encroaching the lands of the community people, of the tribal people and all. Okay, then lack of title to public land cultivated by the landless poor, that the poor on which they were cultivating of the land, they does not have a paper, they does not have any paper to show that these lands belong to them. So these kind of lack of titles and all, that were one of the regions that ultimately the rich people acquired those land. So this was one of the issue. So poor implementation of the laws prohibiting transfer of tribal land to the non-tribals in the 5th schedule of areas. So in the constitution of the 5th schedule, there are some drawbacks which cause transfer of tribal land into non-tribal. So there are some challenges in those 5th schedule that people used to manipulate in, and they started to acquire those tribal lands and all. Okay, and these, when you acquire those lands, the only main challenge is the displacement of those tribal people. You have to give separate living, separate livelihood, separate land to them. But ultimately what happens, their generations, their fathers, grandfathers have lived on that land, and ultimately on one day you are asking them to shift to a new land to start their religions and ethnicity or traditions again. So it is not possible for them. Okay, so this is one of the major challenges that made rise of insurgent groups, and ultimately this kind of issues raise hate against the Indian government. And when this kind of emotions or thinking come in the mind, they raise arms against the government, and they want an independent state, independent regions, and thus ultimately that left wing extremism emerged into India. Okay, so another regions that one main reason was your land related factors, and the another reason is the displacement and forced evictions. Forced eviction means same thing, the previous one cause and this one cause is connected one, that government used to force the people to leave the land for the development forcefully, because they don't have a papers and all. Like suppose government want to construct a dam, okay, and when the construction of dam takes place, then what happens, that first damage is to the ecological diversity and all, okay, and another issue is to the tribal people who is living there. So these are the situations that make problem to those people, and ultimately you will get alienated from those regions. Alienation means they are getting loneliness. That's why we will see such kind of movements like Chipko movement was there, where they don't want the construction of dam because the trees were getting cut and the tribal people were getting alienated. Okay, so the eviction from lands traditionally used by the tribals, large tribal people were displaced from central India due to large scale of public projects. Displacement caused by the irrigation and power projects without adequate arrangement of the rehabilitation, as such projects require large part of land and further compensation is not provided adequately. Even that government is telling that we will provide the compensation, but it is not provided adequately. Okay, because they are poor people, they don't have much knowledge about it also, that how to claim regarding it. And these rich people, these businessmen used take advantage of those things. Large scale land acquisition for public purposes without appropriate compensation or rehabilitation, and these developments are not benefiting to those people that who lived in those areas. These types of development are helping or giving benefit to those businessmen only, businessmen or the urban people or the people who will work there. That's it. It will not affect any, it will not give benefit to those traditional people. So right now those many laws have been came where sustainable development have been proposed, and if there is some displacement or alienation of those people present living in these areas, then you have to provide a separate and clean living areas for them in the forest only. There are many laws, but certain how if you are displacing them from their generational land, then nobody wants to leave it. So such forced eviction compromised the livelihood and well-being of the tribal population, and this became the sound major cause of the spread of left-wing extremism. Okay, and another reasons, first was your land related factors, then another was your displacement and forced eviction. These two are connected to each other. Then livelihood related causes. So this is basically deals with the services which are supposed to be extended by the state for the local population, that is services such as food security and all that. People living in the India, like we have seen that the growth of population in India or in the world is based on arithmetic progression. Okay, like it is it based on geometric progression, that if you have two people, then it will be like 4, then if it is getting something more, then then another child will come from that, then from this will come. Okay, so this is something that this is working on fractional part. So this is, it has been said that population increment is a GP, geometric progression, and food expansion is turning on arithmetic progression, which is very slow. So ultimately what happens, food insecurity is present in the population if the population is increasing at such a high pace. Okay, so thus the lack of food security is present, and further the corruption in the public distribution system, which are often non-functional now, various policies are coming, that but this is the one issue, that lack of food security is present. Now agriculture is improving and all, we are coming with more sustainable kind of farmings, but this is one of the issue. In the future maybe these regions will change, regions will not be there, but currently this is the reason. Disruption of traditional occupations and lack of alternative work and opportunities, deprivation of traditional rights in the common property resources. Okay, and due to lack of such services leads to get them alienated, and ultimately these kind of feelings of alienation, leaving them alone, not getting filled as a people of a same country, because the country same people is treating a very good, they are getting business, they are getting money, they are getting foods, high quality foods and all, and another place you are going into their regions, exploiting their place, plus asking them to leave that place, and no benefit is given to them. Ultimately these kind of things making them alienated. Okay, so social exclusion, it is quite prevalent in central and eastern part of India. That is social exclusion, that excluding something socially, as central and eastern part of India. So denial of dignity, first, that in human practice such as untouchability and bonded labors, if these kinds of mindset is there, these people will automatically go against those people who are practicing it, because they are not touching it, they are taking as a bonded labor, they are treating them like a animal, not even like an animal sometimes. Okay, so if someone's dignity is not maintained, so what you will expect from them? Would they try to respect you? Because their dignity is not there, they are not getting food security and all. So what will happen if someone is giving money to raise arms against the government? I will pay you. Obviously they will do it. And in these kind of situations, our western countries, western power are helping them, like Pakistan, China and all. They are providing money and arms to those peoples to raise arms against the government, and ultimately as they don't want India to develop, and that's why these kind of external power helps them to grow. Okay, so ultimately it is not completely their mistake, it is our failure also, because these people are nobody, these are not outsiders, these are the citizen of India only. We didn't provide them great care, we made them alienated, and ultimately they raised arms. This is the failure of our nation, failure of our government, that made them to raise arms against us. Okay, continued practice in some areas of untouchability in various forms, poor implementation of special laws and prevention of atrocities, protection of civil rights and abolition of bonded labor, etc. Okay, so laws have been implemented but poor implementation, but right now as per the current scenario it is not practiced at a very far extent, but we can't deny it, it is not there, it is present there. In recent also we used to hear these kind of news. Okay, so we can't deny these facts are still exist in our society, and this make them social excluded, and ultimately they will raise arms against us. Okay, so government related factors are like in the government only corruptions are there, poor provisions and non-provision of essential public services including primary healthcare and education. And right now in this COVID situation we made to realize how bad our medical facilities are, how many drawbacks were present there. And now the government has started most of its funding in the medical sector to improve it, because now they have realized how important this medical sector is. Okay, like suppose even if there is a rich people A and there is a poor people B. Okay, like suppose if you didn't treat them, okay, let us suppose government didn't treat them well, and one virus has affected that person B. What will happen? It is, you can't control this virus then may affect this person A also. Okay, so nobody will if you are alienating a poor people, So it don't feel like that rich people will also be not affected. Yes, it is true that they may less affected because they are using their personal vehicles and all, but it is not that, but you can't deny that they won't be affected. They may be affected, and there is a high probability of being affected, because in this COVID situation we can see nobody like top leaders and actors are getting affected by the COVID. So thus it has to be that medical facilities should be taken care in the balanced manner, and the corruption that were present has been reduced right now, and the government is working on it. Okay, so even if you are writing an answers in any government exam, just don't try like the government is corrupt and all. Try to give positive image, like I have written corruption and all, but I am giving you answer in an modified manner, in positive manner. Okay, that previous this kind of situation was there, now government is improving it, so write the answer in that manner only. Incompetent, ill-trained and poorly motivated public personnel who are mostly absent from their place of posting, misuse of powers by the police and violation of the norms of law in order to target local opposition. These acts create further division within the government and the local people. If you are misusing those laws and present, and ultimately what will happen, these people will getting alienated and they will raise arms. So these are the common reasons that made these insurgent groups and Naxalism. So anyhow the growth of these groups are because of our failure of governance only. Okay, and this is the only one most of the important reason. Diversity is one reason also, but who failed it? That government only. Government didn't give too much care on it. So that's why these kind of situations raised in India. And perversion of electoral politics, unsatisfactory working of local government institutions, these are come under one term. Okay, so I hope you understand it. My energy was little bit low, so I am not feeling well, that's why. So please subscribe it. Your subscription is a form of payment you are making me. And if you have any suggestions or on demand video lecture, or you want me any different kind of video lectures to provide you as a separate topic and all, you can ping me on my Twitter handle given in the description. Thank you.